Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Batman Be Vlogged, the weekly vlog series where I review an episode of Batman Beyond after watching it for the very first time. Today, we finally have another two-parter, 40 plus episodes in. The last one we did was the very first episode, episodes 1 and 2. So today, we are looking at episodes 46 and 47. The Call. Let me consult my notes because this one has a fairly big list of credits. From a story by Paul Dini and Alan Burnett, episode 1 was written by, part 1, episode 46, was written by Rich Fogel and Hilary J. Bader, and part 2 was written by Stan Berkowitz. Both episodes were directed by Butch Lukic. As always, because I do these unscripted, there is a blanket spoiler warning in place, just in the off chance I do decide to talk about spoilers. So if you have not seen the episode in question, this is your one chance to pause the video, jump ship, go watch the episode, and then come back and resume this review. And this is a great episode, a huge step up from last week's. So this is our big Justice League episode, and I think the first hint, at least in the Bruce Timm-verse, at least in the DCAU, that Justice League was coming. Of course, it still wouldn't come for a few years, Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and Batman Beyond were all made for Kids WB in the mid to late 90s. And then, of course, Justice League was made for Cartoon Network in the early 2000s. So there is still a bit of a time gap between shows, but it feels like the mission statement was there was always going to be a Justice League show, and this episode was kind of the first hint that was coming. So the conceit of this episode is that Superman asks for Bruce's permission to recruit Terry into the Justice League. Interesting note, unlike Superman, I don't know why, it was probably just a case of actor availability, but unlike Superman the Animated Series, where he was voiced by Tim Daly, and unlike Justice League, where he was voiced by George Newbern, Superman in these episodes are voiced by Christopher McDonald, which is just a really weird choice if you think about it, because Christopher McDonald has kind of been pigeonholed into playing sort of asshole douchebags. That's his whole shtick. If you see him in anything, that's usually what he's playing. So it's really weird to think that Shooter McGavin played Superman. He is not bad, do not get me wrong. He is actually really good, especially for what these scripts require of Superman. But it's just, on paper, it is such a bizarre choice. Anyway, Superman has recruited Terry because he believes there is a traitor in the Justice League trying to sabotage them from the inside out. In fact, one of the catalyst for recruiting Terry is that a Justice League hero by the name of Micron was recently attacked and left comatose. The lineup for this iteration of the Justice League Unlimited, or the JLU as it's called, consists of Superman, Batman, Terry McGinnis now, Warhawk, who looks like maybe a descendant of Hawkman. No backstories are ever given for any of these characters, by the way. Barda, who the credits and the episode only ever refer to Barda, so I don't know if she's supposed to be Big Barda, a comic character that admittedly I know nothing about other than the fact she exists. A new iteration of the Green Lantern, and Aquagirl, someone who presumably has ties of some sort, familial or otherwise, to Aquaman. And Aquagirl is voiced by Jodie Benson. I see what you did, Batman Beyond. Cute. But anyway, so one thing I really want to praise for these episodes is that they use their time so well. I feel like a lot of episodes in the past, and some of the ones I've been watching more recently, because they are confined to a 22 to 25 minute runtime, there's a lot of plot points that they have to hit really fast simply for the sake of the runtime. And oftentimes it leaves those plot points feeling underdeveloped or rushed because they don't really have the time they deserve. This episode being 2 parts really works around that um this because it's using its time really well. Like episode 1 is all the build up, the escalating tension leading to the reveal and the cliffhanger, and then episode 2 being basically an extended action sequence where all that build up finally pays off and we finally see what's going on and how is it going to get resolved. Will Friedle, I think, thinking about it, gives one of his weaker performances. I'm trying to throw my mind back across the series because I don't want to say it's his weakest performance in the series. I don't think it is, but it is certainly one of his weaker ones. Like, a lot of his deliveries just feel really flat. Like, they're trying to do the Batman thing of being stoic, but Friedel just doesn't do it well, and in a lot of episodes he kind of found his own way of doing it, and here it just feels like he is leaning really heavily into how Kevin Conroy does it. Also, just Bruce's role in this episode was kind of interesting because, yeah, we've seen it in the comics and other iterations of DC characters. Batman has contingency plans for the fear that any Justice League character would go rogue, which is kind of what happens. Again, Superman believes there's a traitor operating within the League. So he gives Terry the means to incapacitate the League member in question if he has to. But again, for this series, and if you're not familiar with Batman's interactions with other heroes in the DC universe, this is something that kind of comes out of nowhere. Kevin Conroy does play it really well, but sadly, I wish there was more of a focus in this episode because some of the dialogue here kind of hints that there was a falling out of sorts between Batman and Superman. We never know what it is. It's never elaborated on. Kevin Conroy kind of plays the subtlety of it really well. But just, it feels like what comes later with Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, given that this is all one shared universe, it feels like just some aspects of that weren't thought through, but that's being nitpicky. Also interesting, episode 1 felt like it looked like it was hand-drawn. Like, there was a roughness to it. If you look at, like, the textures, it's really weird to try and put this into words. There was kind of like a graininess to it. Like, there was this sort of almost film grain look to it. That again, it's really hard to put into words, that like the earlier hand-drawn episodes had, which kind of leads me to believe this episode was hand-drawn. And then, weirdly enough, episode 2, part 2, I keep calling them episodes and parts are different things. Part 2 had that smooth, more polished look of the digital episodes. So there was a weird disconnect. Even though the episodes had different writers, again, part 1 was written by Hilary J. Bader and Rich Fogel, and part 2 was written by Stan Berkowitz, they are very cohesive, and I imagine that stems from the fact that the overall story was by Paul Dini and Alan Burnett. So I imagine in the writing stage, they were able to direct and guide the writers into putting this story together. And I do want to, again, just praise the cohesion of that, because oftentimes stories with multiple writers, not like a TV series, but like one story, there is oftentimes a disconnect. You can tell when a different writer is writing by the way they write characters or just their styles in general. Anyway, all of this kind of leads up to the fact that the villain behind this, I won't expose who the traitor is, although I do feel like it's a little obvious in hindsight. All this leads up to the fact that the traitor in question was being manipulated by Starro the Conqueror. They never say Starro in the episode itself. They never give him a name. They just talk about him as a creature who was sort of misplaced from his home, and then sort of out of fear and then, desire for power to protect himself, started having these dreams of conquest. But yeah, it's Starro, which is just kind of an overall fun little nod, and the way he's used is actually really creepy. I do want to praise that. Like, I feel like oftentimes Starro's kind of the butt of the joke, just for the nature of the fact that it's a giant starfish. But lately, I've just come across stories where Starro is used really effectively, like James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, or again this episode. Like, the depiction of Starro here, I don't think, again, not a comics reader, is how Starro is normally depicted, but again, it is so effective, and there is some good body horror to it. The Call is just overall a really strong episode. I do have my nitpicks. Again, Bruce's entire motivation kind of feel out of place, and it feels like there is a bit of a scene missing in Bruce's characterization. This is one of Will Friedel's flatter performances, but the story is overall really strong. It's animated beautifully. Again, even there is that weird style disconnect between the two episodes. Christopher McDonald is a surprisingly good Superman. I feel like by the end of season 3, this will probably make my top 5 episodes. But those are just my thoughts. Have you seen The Call, parts 1 and 2? What are yours? Start a conversation in the comments below. And guys, we are in the end game. We have 5 episodes of Batman Be Vlogged left. Batman Beyond is a little bit different. I'll elaborate in a second. But like, we have 5 episodes left. We have 5 episodes, but we have one more 2-parter. So for Batman Be Vlogged, we have 4 episodes left. And then our grand finale, which I've been talking about in the past few videos, our grand finale of Batman Be Vlogged, which will be Return of the Joker. We are in the end game. We are so close to done. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload. In the description box below, you'll find the link to my socials where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. Share the video around. All of it helps my channel grow. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.